Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Code with Ashwani. Today I'm going to show you every single way to add API key authentication in your ASP.NET Core application so you can choose what works for you. We're gonna look at the middleware approach, controller based approach, and minimal API based approach. And I'm also going to show you how you can add Swagger support. So when the customer of your API go to the open API Swagger page, they can use authorize button and they can provide the API key there. So this is your one-stop shop for API key authentication. So if you like my content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe my channel and hit the notification bell. So let's start. We can use API key authentication in two ways, using one static key for all and the second is a dynamic key for each user. So in the static approach, let's say there are two services, service 1 and service A and service B. Service A wants to talk to service B, and service B only accepts requests from the authenticated services. So this is usually done in internal services in companies. Okay, and in the dynamic approach, we can create keys for different consumer. So if let's say user A is using Open Weather Map API, for example, then user A can go to the API login and create an API key. So here Open Weather API knows that this is user A, so user A can be rate limited and monitored. In this video, we are gonna cover this static version of the key because the dynamic version can be plugged using the exact same code. So I'm gonna keep it easy for you so you can follow along. This the code link will be in the description. You can download for the practice. So this is a simple ASP.NET Core Web API project, and we are going to use this. And for this project, for this video, I'm gonna store the API key in app setting, but for the real time, we use either Azure Key Vault or AWS Secret Manager or any other service which is designed to store secrets. Okay. I will create my next video about how to store secret in Azure Key Vault and best way to access it. So let's start. So this is API key. I have a random API key generated, and this is inside the section authentication, and this is our key, this is our value. Now let's create a constant to store this API key. So let me create a folder. Here I have created the constant API key section name. So that is the same section name we have created in our app setting.json to directly access this, not retyping everything, because that may lead us to any, because it will be accessing that authentication API key and it will not find if we mistype it. And this is our API key header name. So in this header, we will send our API key from our Postman or whatever client we use, or whoever access it, he will need to send the API key in this header. So we will read values from this header. So first approach which is generally used is middleware approach. When you want to apply authentication for all the controllers and its method. So let's create a middleware. Okay. So simplest way to implement a middleware is using middleware interface, and we will implement this. So now previously this interface was not there, so we needed to create a request delegate, and like we had invoke method, we needed to create invoke method. So everything is now bundled up into this invoke async. We will receive this context, and we will pass this context into the next delegate. So our first line is next and context. Okay. So this will be our final result. So what we want to do with this context, that is that is in the middleware. Okay. So we will use context dot request. Okay. So we have our headers here. So with this header, we will access our this API key. Okay. So let me copy this so we don't have to type everything. So we'll make our methods in, and we also need this configuration. So let's pass it in. Let's create a constructor. So it's inside the namespace. Okay. We need to pass I configuration inside this, and we will assign this I configuration. Okay. So now we have everything, and let me explain what we are doing really here. So it's very simple. As I have already told you, we have headers here, which our API consumer will send the data. So we'll try to get the API key header name, what we define in this constant. So this is our X API key. So this I'm trying to get here, and if we find this, okay, then this will be stored in abstracted key, and if we don't find it, then we are going to response 401, and there's this message we add API key is missing. And if we find it, then we have to check this API key matches with our app setting API key. So for that, we have used the configuration, and we have used get values of this section name. So now we are using our constant what we have defined, and if this API key is not if it is null, or if it doesn't match with our API key, then again 401, and the message is invalid API key. Okay. So let's return. No, wait. So this is our middleware. So this is as simple as. Okay. Now we have to do only one thing. To plug this middleware, so we'll use this before the authorization, and our middleware name is API Auth middleware. So this is done. Okay. Let's run it and see if our this weather forecast API sorry, this API, weather forecast controller. So this API, we can access it or not. So this is our Swagger page, and when we try it out, let me execute and see. We are getting our 4.1, that is unauthorized, and let's try this URL in Postman as well, so we can see our messages. And let's get API key is missing. Okay, so now we just need to pass that API key in our headers. So let me copy my header. It was auth const. X API key. And this is value. Okay, now send it. See, now we are getting our temperature data, as you can see. Okay, and let me change the API key a little, remove the last one, and invalid API key. So this is our centralized, you can say, authentication. It will be applied to all controllers and all its action method. You cannot apply to a particular controller and cannot apply to particular action method. For getting more control over each controller or action method, we will use authentication filters. So let us create a filter. Filter, and we will implement authorization filter. Authorization filter. Okay, so we also have a async version of authorization filter. So right now we are only using authorization filter. Okay. Let's implement it. So on authorization, so this will be executed before executing the controller or the action method. So we can apply a check over each controller or each action method. So let's paste the value. So now here the context is a little different. So in previous where we created middleware, so context was our HTTP context, and it had the request and headers. But in this one, authorization filter context, so context is not directly HTTP context. It doesn't have directly request method, but context has HTTP context, and then we can use request and headers. That's the only change you have to do. Okay, we are again getting the extracted key, and in this one also we are directly applying the result here. So context.result new unauthorized object result. So that we have did, and we have passed our same error message, API key is missing. If we don't find this header name inside the request headers. Okay, and if we get the header, then we are again matching the same, and if it doesn't match, then we are returning invalid API key. Okay, so that's all the change that you have to do for authorization filter. Let's save the changes, and now we just need to register this class in our program.cs like we did for middleware. So let me add builders.services, add scoped. Okay, so to use this, first let's remove this one, and we will use on authorization at middleware. That's inbuilt app dot on authentication, on sorry use authentication. Okay? Use authentication. So this is the middleware we will use to use this API key auth filter. Okay? Now we will need to apply the filter over our controller. Let's put it here. So this is our service filter type of API key auth filter that we have just created. So we'll pass it like this, and we have already commented our middleware, so it should work as it was running before. But now we have control to apply on which controller we want to use that authentication. Okay, so let's say we have more than one controller here, and you want to only restrict user to use weather controller, so you can do that. Okay, let's run this. So this is a weather forecast and execute. Again, we are getting API key missing. So currently we don't have that authorize button here. We will do at last. So let's move it from here to our postman. We already have here. So if I pass the key, we have the value. If I don't pass the key, we'll get API key missing. And if I change the API key, I added a small seal after that, invalid API key. So it's working as expected. Okay. Now let's create another method. So let me change this to action and SGP get weather forecast, and let's change this to get weather forecast. Let's change this to 2 and get weather forecast 2. Okay. So now we have 2 action method, and let's apply this filter only to one of its action method. So let's cut it from here. Okay, and paste it here. So now we have our 2 APIs. So when we run the get, we are getting 401. When we run our get 2, we are getting our data. So see, now we have achieved our control over particular action method. So this is used in real time. So when you have multiple method and you want to give user control to see some data on login, like a login page or something in your API, so you will not put any authorization on that controller. Let's say there was a account controller and you have login, register, everything there, so you will not put any authorization there. But when your user try to access the features of your API, like get the data, so in that case, on that you will apply this filter. Okay, now one more thing, this change we have done, like service filter type of API key auth filter, and if we just want to use that attribute, so we will just need to do attribute class implementation, and it now can be used as attribute. So I just remove this everything, service, the type of everything, and I can use now my API key auth filter as an attribute. Now I have updated the name as well, weather and weather 2, and I can now get the data. So see, weather forecast, weather, and weather 2. Let's run this, maximize it here, try it out, execute. I'm getting 401, and weather 2, try it out, execute, and I'm getting data. Okay, let's see in the Postman as well. So copy the URL from here. So this is the weather 2. Send. For weather 2, I'm getting the data. For weather only, I'm providing the key, that's why I'm getting data. I've removed the key, I'm not getting data. For weather 2, whether I provide the key or not, I'm still getting the data. Okay, so that was all about the authorization filter. Okay, let's now change our filter to API endpoint filter. So API endpoint filter is applied over the minimal APIs, that those are supposed to be future. So let's remove user authentication from here, and just after this map controller, we'll plug our code. So we have weather mini API. I have just copied every data from weather, and let me create this class quickly. So we have created our weather data class right here. So this is only have a somebody's public static read only string array. Okay. Okay, so now our error is gone. So we can now use weather mini. Let's rerun our application and check what we are getting in our Swagger page. So we have now our weather mini, and let's try it out. We are getting the same data. So now when we try to apply an authentication over this API, so we cannot use our if I use our middleware approach, it will still be validated. So let's uncomment this, and because it is for all, so when request is in the pipeline, it will check in API auth middleware, and if a request has valid headers and valid key, then it will authorize the result. Okay, so let's quickly check that. So get, try it out, and execute. See, 401. Okay, so this is common for all. So when you want to apply for everything, you just use middleware approach. So we want and check for only this API, weather mini API. Okay, so that's where we create our endpoint filter. So let's create our endpoint filter. Endpoint filter. Okay, and we will implement our I endpoint filter. Okay, In this one, we'll use this code. So this is similar to what we did with authentication filter. Just change here is return, this return statement. So let me make this async. So get rid of this error. Okay. So now this is same endpoint filter invocation context we are getting, and endpoint filtered delegate we are getting. So we are returning this next await and next context. Okay, and in the return type we are using typed result. You can also do result, but typed result is like type safe version of result, so we are using this one, type result. And in both cases we are returning unauthorized. Okay. So rest of the code is same. We are reading the headers, the section XAPI key. So XAPI key we are fetching the value. If value is not present, we are returning unauthorized. Then we are reading the section of from the API configuration, and this section authentication API key. And if we do not find the key, or the key doesn't match, then we are returning unauthorized. So one thing here to notice, we cannot return anything inside this. So if I open this bracket, you see it doesn't take any parameter. Okay, so for that you will have to create your own result type. So that's another thing. So for right now, let's implement this. Okay, to add this, we just simply need to add here, add endpoint filter, and our filter name API Key Endpoint filter right here. Okay, so the filter is added. So our both previous filter is now removed. So the previous one, this weather forecast controller is now open to all, but this weather mini, this endpoint, this is restricted to user. So only the authorized user can access this. So let's run this program and see. So first, let's check these two. Execute. Okay, 401 we are still getting. So I might have missed something. Use authentication. Okay, so okay, this attribute we have here. Let's comment it out. So now when we try it out, we are getting data. Okay, and for weather 2 as well, we'll be getting the data, right? But when we check weather mini, now we have 401, that is unauthorized. Okay, so weather mini is like it is successfully applied our endpoint filter, you can see. So now let's move to the Swagger configuration, how we will configure the Swagger here. So we will get our authorize button here, and we can pass our API key right here so that we can test it out in the Swagger. Okay, so for this we'll go right here, and after our API Explorer, in this in place of this Swagger gen, we'll use this code. So let me quickly explain. Okay. So we are giving a security definition, and in this one we are passing the name of security definition and the scheme. So scheme, we are using Open API security scheme and giving the description. The API key is to access the API, and type we are using API key. So you can use if you want to see what type of scheme we have. So API key, OpenID Connect, OAuth2, and SGP. So right now we are using API key, and the name we have given what we are passing from the user, X API key. Okay, in we are getting in header, and the scheme is API key scheme. Okay, so now we are creating a scheme, Open API security scheme, and providing the references for security scheme and giving the ID API key, the same API key we have used here, and giving the parameter location as header. Okay. So now we have to create only a requirement, Open API key security requirement, and passing our scheme that we have just created, and a new list of string. And then only thing that remains to add the security requirement in the top level. This add swaggergen. So this X will X dot add security requirement, and we'll pass this requirement we have created. So that's all. That's how easy it is to add the authorize button in our swaggergen page. So now let's see. See, now we got the authorize button for all. So let's first execute this one. Okay, so we are getting data here. As we already know, we don't have any security here, but in Weather Mini API, if I execute, I'm getting right now 401 unauthorized. Okay, but let's pass our API key right here. So it's giving me X API key, the header. Okay, in we have header, and the description we have give the API key is to access the API. So you can see all the data here. Okay. So let me copy the API key. And I have authorized it. Let's close. And then again re-execute. Now we are getting the data. See? And similarly, if I add middleware or any authentication filter, so this works for everything. Okay, so Swagger automatically picks up the security requirement. That's the beauty of it. So that is all. All the ways you can implement the API keys authentication in your application. Okay, so see you in the next video. Thank you.